how are we going to address the challenge of the financing, the capital that's needed specifically to invest in the operator and in the operations, with so much of focus historically on the real estate component? How are we going to, because that's a question I've certainly gotten in the hallways and heard in the hallways the last couple of days. So some initial thoughts on that. This time, Doug, we'll start with you.
There's two discussions going on at this conference on capital. One is, how much money can I get out of my building today? And the other discussion centers around everything we just talked about. I can tell you that overwhelmingly, the amount of capital that sides with the first bucket is much larger than the amount of capital that sides with the second. And until that shifts over or evens out, I think we're going to have a difficult discussion of how we're going to do that on a uniform basis. And I think that lenders and investors have to believe in this concept, not just talk about the concept. Look at their operators, see what they're doing, and what they want. I do believe that for me, I've been challenged over, for 20 odd years now with the concept of every time somebody brings a new idea that's untested, I take a chance, I take a risk. And there are some obvious things that you want to invest in, and some things that, I think a lot of us in the room have experienced. Somebody's selling them a new piece of software and says it's going to do everything, and they spend $100,000 or $200,000 for that, and it's a bust. So I think that people are a little gun shy over that, including the lending and investing community. So we have to get that on the table.
Chuck?
I could take a very provocative view and say it will be a consolidating factor moving forward. So if you want to take the Machiavellian approach to things and say, the haves will do well and the have-nots will be consolidated and go away. So that's one potential outcome.
So scale will be critical.
Scale will be
to
critical.
Attract that capital is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's either scale under your own banner or scale within networks. I would agree with Doug.
First time
for everything.
You heard it.
That the capital has been real estate focused.
Yeah.
I mean, that's largely how we look at the world. And we're a REIT, right?
Yeah.
So who's more real estate focused than us? So the capital has not been there historically. It's still a relatively small business in the scheme of operating companies. I mean, there are a few big players, but for the most part, these are not huge businesses. So I see that still early days. I would expect capital to continue to come into the business in different ways. So right now, it's early days for our space in that.
Ken?
Well, look, I think it's fairly axiomatic to say that the value of the real estate is driven by the quality of the operations. So if you find a way to drive NOI and make these innovations, bottom line oriented, then you will have alignment with your capital partners, and you will ultimately make the real estate worth more money. So the question really becomes, how do you bake these innovations into your value proposition, and that enables you to either drive operational efficiencies or charge more to the residents or hold census or whatever will drive profitability of the community. It's not just innovate for the sake of innovation or like you said, some silly technologies. I think it's important when you want to think about innovation and you want to migrate towards the person-centered approach, and you come up with a program that you really believe will make a difference, okay? Whether it's the telemedicine approach, or for Brand, you want it to be the all-day dining experience. Whatever it is, you have to put some real muscle behind it and stand behind it. And ultimately, the capital for the value proposition will come from your ability to drive profitability at your community and to hold census and hold price. And then you will have a more valuable real estate asset, and then it will become more and more a part of how your investor group looks at you and looks at the value of your real estate. So, you know, don't let the fact that it requires an investment of resources and money and time overwhelm you. Start small, pick one segment, like you said, Doug, be very good at it, bake it into your value proposition, demonstrate how it differentiates you, hold true to it in the marketplace, and allow the profitability of your community that you have increased through the innovation that you've done to be the beacon that you use to attract more investor interest into your property.